three major confederations came back which would carry sufficient votes to block the actual proposal is different to the fact that they're not all necessarily saying it's a vote against Infantino. And so Infantino is circling the wagons. He's got a few people from the Asian Confederation and Africa. I think a few individual federations have said that they still back Infantino as an individual. So there is a fight. I think the most interesting piece of the next few days will be what actually happens inside FIFA itself.
FIFA President Gianni Infantino is facing growing calls to resign after abandoning plans to sell a stake in the World Cup to a private investor. The proposal has been condemned by UEFA, the Football Association and other football leaders who accuse Infantino of trying to push through an opaque deal without proper consultation. This morning, the Welsh Football Association announced that it would not back his re-election, the first National Football Association to do so. Well, joining us now is Mark Palios, the former Chief Executive of the Football Association. Good morning.
Good morning.
Do you think at this point it's inevitable that Infantino will have to go?
I think it's inevitable he should go, but I think people who know him have indicated that he will, of course, fight on. And you've seen the glimmerings of that. I mean, I think the fact that the three major confederations came back which would carry sufficient votes to block the actual proposal is different to the fact that they're not all necessarily saying it's a vote against Infantino. And so Infantino is circling the wagons. He's got a few people from the Asian Confederation and Africa. I think a few individual federations have said that they still back Infantino as an individual. So there is a fight. I think the most interesting piece of the next few days will be what actually happens inside FIFA itself, because the executives, some fairly senior executives, or the chief operating officer, to be precise, has indicated that there is a real problem with Infantino. So it's how he manages that and what's the outcome of that, which will be as significant as what the federations do, to my mind.
And can FIFA, as you say, if they are raising concerns internally, can they remove him themselves? Does FIFA have the power to say, look, we don't have confidence in you anymore, you have to go? Or does it have to go through this anonymous ballot process?
I think there are a variety of ways in which Infantino can, of course, do the decent things, see the writing on the wall and decide that, enough is enough and it's not for him. There's an ethics sanction, which they can go, it's a bit more long and drawn out. Somebody can make a complaint to the ethics committee. There has to be an investigation, but that's not satisfactory because it's going to take some time. FIFA Council itself can convene an emergency meeting, as I understand it. They need about 50%, so that would be about 19 federations. So they're probably capable of doing that if you start to look at the people on there. But that would only give them an ability to basically give a vote of no confidence in Infantino. And he doesn't have to resign as a consequence of that. Again, he might try and brazen that out and move to a position whereby either he forces the parties to then go for an emergency Congress, which I believe is about 20%. So they need 43 associations. FIFA have got 55, so they could do that. That would take a couple of months to convene. But there you'd actually have and what really has to happen is they have to decide, I think, on a suitable candidate to oppose Infantino.
And do they have one yet? Is there one around?
There are names bandied around, and I think the first thing I would say is what people need to understand is that the thing that underpins Sepp Blatter's ability to control FIFA in the way that he did was to some extent aligned with the fact that there was a concern within the main body of the federations that the dominance of Europe and UEFA was something that needed to be challenged or at least balanced. And we've seen the last two presidents have both been Europeans. It's UEFA who have instigated the objections to Infantino. So I suspect that it's better to have a unification candidate. That probably means it's not European. In which case you've got Mogliani, the guy who's in charge of CONCACAF is one of the candidates. Another candidate that people raise is the guy in charge of the Asian Confederation. But at the moment, we've got to get into a position whereby there is a challenge to Infantino.
Yeah, and we're not there yet.
And if they need to move quickly, because they've got to get a candidate for the election, which is in the spring of next year, they would have to get a candidate in by the 18th of November, I believe.
Can I ask you finally, Mark, would you rule out any financial stake or any financial model ever in the World Cup? Is that just something that most people feel is totally out of bounds, or could it have worked if it was introduced or discussed in a different way?
The answer is, I think it's not wrong to seek to bring finance into football in any way that you can, subject to the fact that one has to be sort of in. It's this balance between the sporting ethic and the commercial realities of that. So I think it's okay to explore it, and really that's what Infantino should have done. And through proper consultation, which is what I think a lot of the beef is about, is that he's just brought this along as a really hard-baked idea. I think he doubled down on insulting the intelligence of the confederations by saying that he blamed you guys, he blamed the media for stopping him having a planned consultation. Well, there's no way you were going to have a planned consultation in 53 days with a gun held to your head.
Yeah.
And a hard-baked, they had bankers, they had individuals named.
Yeah, it wasn't, yes, it didn't seem to match up really what he was saying with the reality. Mark, thanks very much.
Thank you.
That is Mark Palios there, the former chief executive of the Football Association.
8:26.
A bit of breaking news for you before we talk to Andrew Neil. Times Radio understands that the English FA, the English Football Association, will withdraw its support for Gianni Infantino. The Welsh FA said the same this morning. We'll bring you more on that story in the next half hour.